The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Well, there's also coming in wrong, missing notes, playing flat, getting the rhythm right, the style right, the dynamic right, the articulation and phrasing right. And on top of all that, was it even musical enough?
Ooh, I like that title graphic, guys.
Well, if Gina Luciani likes it, I guess we should keep it and move on.
Humans are born with two innate fears, the fear of falling and of loud noises. Every other fear we have is learned, and performance anxiety is one of those. So what exactly is performance anxiety? You might have heard of it by a different name, like stage fright. The quick explanation of either of these is simply the fear of performing in front of people. And this fear can manifest itself in a lot of different ways, such as a racing pulse,
Rapid breathing,
vision changes,
Sweaty or cold hands.
an uneasy feeling, or worse, a sense of nausea.
trembling in your hands, lips, knees, or voice. And yes, this definitely can transfer to the sound coming out of your instrument.
Essentially, it's the body's fight or flight response, a psychological reaction that occurs when you find yourself in the presence of something either mentally or physically terrifying.
Like playing a solo.
Performance anxiety closely resembles acute stress response, which means that while you're trying to figure out the best way to play something difficult, you panic and your body undermines you, releasing hormones that prepare you to either stay and deal with the threat or fly away to safety.
Flight means to run away from it all, right? I get that, because I've experienced all of those symptoms, and what I'd really like to do is kiss them goodbye.
Awesome! So before we get into some of the methods to combat the physical reactions of performance anxiety, we should address the mental or the emotional side of things as well. The body's psychological reaction to fear can be even more problematic for performing musicians.
My scariest experience was playing on the ring.
Oh, that was totally creepy. Naomi Watts? I had nightmares for days after watching that.
Really, Jenny? No. The Ring Cycle by Richard Wagner. Seventh horn on Das Rheingold, an exposed part right at the beginning of the opera. Aside from developing a tremor you could drive a truck through, I then spent weeks totally doubting my ability to play the part, let alone the horn.
Well, we all go a little mad sometimes, but obviously worrying for weeks in advance of a concert is a clear sign of anxiety. This anxiety can also manifest itself in the form of memory slips, mental numbness, or a general sense of disassociation.
Full-blown panic attacks.
Or even wondering if a little car accident right before the show might not be the best thing to happen, but at least you wouldn't have to play that terrifying solo?
When psychological symptoms are as potent as these, it can lead to an inability to perform at all.
Which totally defeats the purpose of being a musician. It's the love of playing that's brought so many of us into this profession.
I am tired of my fears, and I just want to kiss them adios.
All right, I'm going to throw this one to you, Daniel, though I suspect I know the answer. Do you like scary horn parts? Okay, I'll make it easier. Do you have a favorite genre? What do you think about seeing a part on your stand like Brahms, Schumann, or Stravinsky?
I see dead people.
Let's try a different direction. Can either of you name some things that are more frightening than performing?
Fire ants,
Goliath bird-eater tarantulas.
vampire squids, or hookworms?
The toothpick fish. Ouch!
Or pretty much any snake. That fertile ant is scary.
Or the bushmaster.
I'd rethink saying that last one out loud again. But back to performing. How about coming up with a statement of positivity?
In your headspace, no one can hear you scream. Though, speaking of which, I often have vivid dreams about missing notes. Just clams screaming, no matter how much I've practiced.
That's a positive statement? You're gonna need a bigger ego.
And an entirely different method of approaching difficult music.
All right.
Hello, Danny. Come and play with us. Come and play with us, Danny. Come and play Strauss with us forever and ever and ever. Moving on, why don't we address how to change one's mindset? I'm afraid to ask Daniel, do you ever have an approach towards performing?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I'm into survival.
That's awesome, Jenny. But Daniel, is that truly your approach? Or just when the music is challenging and exposed?
Help me! Help me!
I'm your #1 fan. But seriously, don't you feel maybe there's a better way you could look at things? For example, recognizing how fortunate you are to have a performing career.
Like, hi, I'm lucky. Want to play?
Wow.
Okay then, back to Jenny. What's your approach for, let's say, playing excerpts for someone?
Here's Jenny.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite scene.
When I was at Eastman, I actually used to wake up thinking, what an excellent day for an excerpt lesson.
And that's totally constructive, which is exactly what we need. A productive way to look at things you might initially consider to be frightening. So let's talk about remedies. And this can get pretty deep, so whatever you do, don't fall asleep. One thing I love to do is actually practicing getting nervous, which is something that I learned from my amazing teacher, Jim Walker. You can do this by playing for as many people as possible before your performance, audition, or competition. Also try playing in different rooms and at different times of the day. You'll never be able to fully recreate the experience of where and when you'll be performing, but by putting yourself in different situations, you should be able to handle whatever comes your way.
You can also connect with your audience. Smile, make eye contact, shift the focus off yourself and onto the enjoyment you're bringing them.
You mean they enjoy watching us mess up? What about the old idea that we take the pressure off by imagining the audience naked?
But what if your parents are there, or your great-great-aunt?
You need to focus on positives. Take a walk beforehand, jump up and down, shake out your muscles, or do a bit of yoga or meditation.
Make sure you're rested and limit your caffeine and sugar.
Eat foods that contain potassium, or maybe a little liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
What about using beta blockers?
Definitely something to consider. And yes, they work, but only with the doctor's permission and never to be relied on exclusively.
Performance anxiety is a very similar feeling to excitement. So instead of dreading feeling anxious, let yourself get excited for the opportunity. As long as you've prepared well enough beforehand, try to let go and relax because there is nothing to fear.
So when someone asks a question such as,
Do you want to play a concerto?
Exactly. Rather than fret about it, you can prepare for a joyful experience. Right, Daniel?
Ha ha ha.
So, Daniel, have the clam stop screaming? We can always hope for the best. Like maybe you'd be good to go as principal on Ein Heldenleben.
It's life! It's life!
So, none of this has helped?
My fears, I want to kiss them adieu, but it's challenging. Last August, I had to play the solo at an outdoor concert, and it was...
I know what you did last summer.
Maybe I've hit the stories a bit too hard. But I'll admit, Gina, you've offered a ton of fabulous advice.
Yes, all of it is helpful.
Thank you so much, Jenny and Daniel, for including me. I definitely think that implementing remedies such as watching what you eat and calming your mind will be beneficial in curbing performance anxiety. Just remember, you have to find what works best for you over time. It might not be an instant fix, but that's okay. Many professionals have suffered crippling performance anxiety, but have worked through it to have incredible careers.
I love everything you said, and I'm positive that now I can take my fears and kiss them away.
Okay, I just have to ask, what's with all this kiss 'em this and kiss 'em that?
It is a little odd.
Do either of you have something to write with? A pen, maybe?
I've got lipstick.
That'll work.
You spell it with a C?
That is so nerdy.